Okay, moving on to the next phase in this mixing system. I haven't 100% landed on exactly what I'm going to title this as of recording this. But this is, as of now, I'm going to call it Build It From the Top. It'll be some iteration of top down, build it from the top, something like that. And I think I do like the Build It From the Top title because of there's this implied counterintuitive nature about it. It's right because whenever we build things in the physical world, it's always you gotta build from the ground up, right? And when it comes to mixing music, it's a good idea to think in reverse and actually build it from the top down. Now, the term top down or top down mixing was explained the best to me by Joe Gilder over at Home Studio Corner. So I've learned a lot from him over the years, and that's sort of his calling card. That's the thing that he will keep rapping on over and over is top down, top down, top down when it comes to mixing. And what is top down mixing? First off, what do I mean by start at the top or build it from the top? The idea is instead of coming in here to all these individual tracks and being like, okay, I'm gonna edit I'm gonna add effects and plugins to this drum loop track. I'm gonna come in here to this clap. I'm gonna add effects to it and plugins and all these individual tracks. I'm gonna do that. Instead of doing that, you're working from the top down. And what that means is at the very top, what is at the very top? It's your master fader, your main output over here, right? Every single track in this session is going through this main output. So that means when you're doing a top-down sort of approach, this is where you start. You start the processing here. And then one level down from that is the buses, right? So that would be like the background vocals bus, the lead vocals bus, the effects bus, the keys bus, acoustic, etc., etc. And then you process those in groups. And so it's kind of like you've now simplified the process because instead of, 20, 30, 50, or 100 tracks, whatever it ends up being in the song that you're mixing, you can usually narrow it down to essentially 5 or 6 buses. And you can think of that as 5 or 6 sections that you can mix. And the majority of that mixing can likely be done on the bus level. Now, there are a plethora of reasons why this is a great idea to mix this way. And I'm not going to get into the weeds on why this works so well, because I'm going to reserve that for the actual mixing course that I am working on, because we'll just dive much deeper into detail there. In this course here, in the 7 Steps course, I just want to give it to you straight. I want to really kind of hit the ground running and keep it as minimal as I can and just show you the outline, show you the overview, and show you how to take your mixes from start to finish. So that's what we're going to do. We are going to build it from the top down. So what does that mean? First off, let's on-solo all of these tracks and let's listen to what we got. And now that my ears are a bit more fresh since I ended the last video, let's see what it sounds like. Okay, so that's what we got. We are definitely going to need to add some boosting of EQ or just add some high into this vocal here in the back half of the song. That way it can pop through the mix. So let me think, what do y'all want to do? Let's actually do that now because we need to be able to hear this vocal. since I have Ozone loaded up here, why don't I go for the Vintage EQ? See if that gives us something that we might... Okay, I have barely used this EQ before. Let me see. Okay, high boost, high mid boost, 3K, 4K. Let me see. But I wish that I could wish you back. Oh wait, that's a high cut. All right, that's good for now. I am definitely going to want to add some compression to this, especially for the back half, you know, for this biggest section of this song. But okay, now let's get back on track. Now that we, you know, made some adjustments to basically finishing off the last step, now let's actually dive into this start from the top approach. And we're going to start on the main output, the master fader, and we're going to see if we can get this mix sounding really good by only putting plugins on the main output. So it's a super efficient way, because if you can really dial it in and take the overall quality of this mix and really level that up by only putting plugins on the master fader, I mean, that is a huge win. And it's a huge time saver as well, because if you can just get it sounding as good as possible. I'm just rambling on, so I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to play it. Here we go. So I'm going to mess around with, I'm going to grab Ozone 9. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to use Ozone 9. I'm going to use... Actually, I am. I am actually going to use Ozone 9 because there's a couple things I want to test out that I want to see how it might sound. The first one is I want to try the vintage compressor here. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I just want to get a little bit of compression. Super, super small amount, especially since it is on the master fader here. So you need to be very careful with adding compression. And if you're just starting out with mixing, honestly, you might want to skip this part of adding compression to the master fader, because if you aren't too keen on exactly what you're doing every step of the way, you might end up turning up the volume an extreme amount across all the different tracks. And then what's going to happen is it is going to send more audio to hit this compressor, and then you're going to end up with a sound that lacks transparency, which will then affect your mixing decisions and so on and so on. So you need to be very careful when you're adding compression to the master fader, just because if you end up really turning up the volume in an obvious manner down the road. And that's part of the reason why I'm going super subtle here. Like, you can only, that compression is only being activated during those loudest parts, because it's definitely not really activated over here. Except for one. Oh, what a
what a time, oh, I aim to finish, just wish that I
Right, it isn't even coming through there, and that's fine because that compression is mainly for just this back half of the song where it's at its loudest. Now, the next thing I want to try is I'm interested to see what it sounds like if we add a little bit of vintage tape to the master fader here.
always
Okay, I like the way that's sounding. So here is what it sounds like if I turn Ozone off on that master bus. Here's with it. Here's without it. Here's with it. Let me actually turn down that output volume. That way we get a better representation of the sound of this mix when we A/B it. So we added some nice tape saturation, and I boosted the high emphasis here, which helps kind of bring out the highs a little bit on the top end, which I love the sound of that on this mix. And so that's the first step. We're starting at the very top, and now we are going to work our way down and do some work on the individual buses. So let's just start all the way at the top, and I'm going to solo the drums, and then we'll start to add in and layer in everything else from there. So here we go. See what's happening there? When the release is too slow, when it's all the way over here, it kind of makes those drums feel more dead. Like they're not alive. They're not dancing like they're supposed to. Listen to how it happens. Really tune your ear to what's happening here. See, there it's slow. And you can see it too. It's just kind of slowly coming back. Notice how the life changes. It becomes more dull, right? But then see, here's without that compression. Now, we're not doing a ton, but it is affecting all of those tracks that are going to the drum bus, right? So when you're doing top down like this, you want to be careful not to overdo things. And just remember that subtlety is your friend, especially at this stage. The more we get down to the individual tracks, the more you want to open yourself up to making very obvious decisions and very drastic moves that just because it sounds good, right? You don't ever want to become overly conservative in your approach. But it is good when you're just starting this, when you're working on the bus level and on the main output, keep the moves subtle. Don't go too crazy at first, because what's going to happen is everything will compound. And so if you're making one compressor on one bus work really, really hard, it'll start to have a negative effect on the overall mix as you add compressors and EQs and saturations to the other buses and the other tracks as well. So that is what we have here. I like the way this is sounding. See, there's without it. Just adds a bit of life to that drum bus. And I think we're good there. There's nothing that really comes to mind specifically that has to be done there on the bus level. So now let's add in the bass to that drum, to those drums. Okay. What I want to do here, this actually could have been done in the last step, because there's a problem here with the synth bass. I think it has too much low end, and it's muddying up that bass guitar, and I think we need to roll off some low end. So let me come in here and solo this synth bass. Yeah, see, there's all this low end here. We don't need this low end to be present because this is where the bass guitar is living. This is where we are trying to emphasize that bass guitar. And so we don't need two basses in this sub range here, in this 50 hertz range. So I'm gonna roll everything off on this synth bass, because the value of this synth bass is here. It's in this range, right? It's that sound, it's that sound. It's all up in these mids here. That is where the value of this track is. We don't need it to be down here. So I'm gonna roll it off all the way up to about here somewhere, like that. Now let's bring in that bass guitar. Listen to the difference. See, they're kind of fighting, right? But now that bass guitar pops through on the super low end because it is no longer fighting with that synth bass on the bottom. So really, really cool there. I love what we just did. So now let's blend in those drums with it. Okay, so what we're doing here with this tube compressor is like 2 to 3 dB of gain reduction. And I'm just kind of using these compressors a little bit at random. Most of these here in the Fat Channel in Studio One sound awesome, right? And so it'll be the same type of thing if you have any Waves compressors, or even if you only use stock compressors. By all means, use what you have. Don't feel the need to go and copy the exact settings that I'm using here, because there's a certain level of arbitrariness about which ones I'm choosing. And I just pick one, and then if it sounds good, I don't bother to test out 10 others. Because if it sounds good, I'm like, okay, I'm vibing with this, I'm just gonna move on to the next thing. There's not that much value generally in testing 10 different compressors on a bass. Just lock the bass in, and if it sounds good, it sounds good. And that's what I'm doing here. I like that. Sounds really good to me. All right, so now let's come into the guitars bus. Okay, so I'm gonna make a little change here. Since we already did some work on the acoustic guitar bus in the last video, right? Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna send these 3 electric guitars to an electric guitar bus. That way we can process those on one channel before they go to the guitars bus as well, before they go to the main output. So these 3 electric guitars are now being sent here, and there's a bit of EQ work. I'm hearing some muddiness that needs to be addressed in this range, so let's go ahead. There we go. And then here as well, I'm going to roll off all that low end because on those electric guitars, we don't need that. This is where the kick drum and the bass lives. So just go ahead and roll that off. Let's come back here. Now, we still need to do some works with regards to the effects and adding some plugins to these guitars. And we will get into that, but that'll be in the next step when we really add some color, we add the sugar, we add the sweetness, all that good stuff. So the next step, step 4, is probably going to be a pretty in-depth step that I might have to split across multiple videos, but that's okay because that's the most fun part. So it's going to be a good time. In the meantime, I'm just trying to get a good balance from the top. Again, that's the whole idea here, is start at the top on the master fader and the bus level and get it sounding good, and then we'll move on to dialing in the individual tracks. So now, I really like the way these guitars sound. And then add in the keys. Don't you love that synth? Oh, so good. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to see if this works. Yeah. Did add some volume there. Well, I could turn it down here. Did you see what I just did? I added this sausage fattener plugin. This is like a saturation plugin with a low saturation here, and it's probably a combination of saturation, compression, whatever it does. And then this is like a high EQ saturation type of color on the top end. And so I'm only using the color here because I want to add some nice sheenness to the top end of this keys bus. So that means all these keys tracks and these synth tracks that are going through this bus are going through this effect, right? Because listen to the difference on those keys sounds. They're just lost, right? But now it just brings them front. Might even go all the way over here. That's that ear candy, right? And then here, add in this effects. Okay, I'm gonna break this rule real quick here before we wrap up this video because everything sounds really smooth to me, everything's sounding quite good, but I'm just gonna go ahead and add a plate reverb to this. Let me see first, which one was this? It's that one. Let's go ahead and drag it in here. Now, we're going to still add some effects to this, but I just want to get it in the ballpark so it's not this ugly take that sounds super dry and annoying. So I just wanted to fix that. That way we can actually add those in. So and there we go. I love it. So that is it. Now there might be too much bass, like I might have turned up the kick and the bass a little bit too much because I'm vibing with it. I mean, that's what sounds good to me in the moment, and we can always turn that down as we move along. But part of that too is I just got new studio headphones. So I just got the Shure, what are these? I already forgot. I think they're Shure 840s or something. I think 840. I'll add text to this video if I'm wrong about the name. But yeah, and they sound super good. I like them way better than my Sennheiser ones that I have been using for the past couple years. These have much more of a warm, much nicer low end, and everything sounds better and more transparent, and I can hear everything more clearly. So I'm loving that. And so I might be pushing the low end. As a result of that, I might be pushing the low end a little bit, and it might be too boomy still, but that's okay. We are going to adjust these things as we go, and we will continue to dial in the overall balance of this song as we progress forward throughout the steps. So there you go, my friend. That is how you build your mix from the top in this counterintuitive way, and it just works wonders. Notice how much better this mix sounds than when we started, right? Which I'm just gonna quickly turn some of these plugins off. There's probably a way to do this. In Studio One, I'm just not that much of a savant when it comes to, scratch it. No, here, okay. Yeah, it was kind of like that. And now, isn't that amazing? Do you hear how much better we just made it sound by only working on the bus levels and on the main output? This is magic. I love this workflow. It'll help you finish your mixes faster, but not just that, it's a double-edged sword. Not only does it help you finish your mixes faster, your mixes will sound better at the same time. So you can have your cake, you can eat it too. It's just a great life over here in the top-down mixing world. So thanks to Joe Gilder for really pioneering. I don't know if he pioneered it, but he was one of those mixers who really brought it into the mainstream with regards to online education and in this space. So thanks to Joe. Thanks to you for watching this video. Now let's move on to the next phase of the mixing process.